My beloved child, come and be still before me. I know the deep and hidden ache of your heart. You have strained to hear my voice. In the lonely watches of the night, you have cupped the ear of your spirit to the heavens, listening with a desperate intensity for a word, a whisper, a direction, a single note of comfort. And so often, what you have heard in return is nothing, a profound, hollow, and deafening silence has been the only answer to your most fervent cries. I know that this silence has become a great and painful wall between us. It has been a source of immense confusion, of deep-seated fear, and of a sorrow so profound it has become the very landscape of your inner world. And in this long and echoing silence, you have begun to draw your own conclusions. Conclusions whispered to you by your own pain and by the enemy of your soul. You have feared that I have stopped speaking to you altogether. You have feared that your past sins or your present weaknesses have created a barrier so thick that your prayers can no longer reach me, and my voice can no longer reach you. Or worse, you have feared that my silence is a sign of my displeasure, that my disappointment in you has made me unwilling to speak to you any longer. You have felt disconnected, adrift, a lost ship on a silent sea with no lighthouse to guide you home. You have felt spiritually deaf, and you have believed that the fault is either mine or yours. But my child, you have fundamentally mistaken the nature of the problem. I have never stopped speaking. My voice has been and is at this very moment a constant, loving, and gentle stream of life flowing toward you. My heart has never been silent toward you. The problem is not. It has never been my silence. The problem is noise. You have been living your life in the very center of a raging, Category 5 hurricane of noise. A relentless and deafening cacophony so loud and so pervasive that it has been utterly impossible for your human spirit to discern the gentle, quiet whisper of my voice. We must first, with great honesty, identify the sources of this deafening noise that has filled your world. First, and most obviously, there is the relentless, screaming noise of the world. I want you to imagine yourself standing in the middle of a vast, chaotic, and unending marketplace. Thousands upon thousands of voices are shouting at you, all at once, all demanding your attention, all claiming to hold the truth. There's the loud, frantic voice of your news and your media, and is a voice that is almost always shouting a message of fear, of crisis, of outrage, and of impending doom. It is designed to keep your soul in a state of constant, low-grade agitation, for an agitated soul is a controllable soul. There is the seductive, whispering voice of advertising, and its message is always the same. You are not enough. You are lacking. But if you buy this product, if you achieve this status, if you attain this image, then you will be whole. It is a voice that constantly cultivates a sense of lack and discontentment in your spirit. There is a cacophony of social media, a billion voices all speaking at once, a relentless stream of comparison, of performance, of curated perfection, of political rage, and of trivial distraction. It is a noise that overloads your senses, scatters your focus, and breeds in you a spirit of envy and inadequacy. And then there's the constant, buzzing noise of human opinion, the voices of your friends, your family, your colleagues, all telling you who you should be, what you should believe, and how you should live your life. This constant, 24-hour-a-day bombardment of information, of opinion, of fear, and of distraction has overwhelmed your spiritual senses. You have been trying to hear my quiet whisper in the middle of a rock concert. It is an impossible task. But even more deafening than the noise without has been the raging storm within. Your own mind, my child, has become a place of great and terrible noise. There is a relentless and cruel narrator of your past regrets, a voice that loves to replay the greatest hits of your failures on a constant, repeating loop. It reminds you of every foolish word you have ever spoken, every mistake you have ever made, every person you have ever hurt. It is a voice that specializes in the language of if only. Then there is the frantic, high-pitched voice of your future anxieties. This is the voice that is constantly imagining 1,000 worst-case scenarios. It is the voice that asks, what if I fail? What if I get sick? What if they leave me? What if I run out of money? This voice of fear creates a future filled with terrifying phantoms and then forces you to live in that imaginary future instead of in the peace of your present moment. And then there's the grinding, striving voice of your own ambition and your own self-criticism, pushing you to do more, to be more, to achieve more, constantly telling you that you are not yet good enough. This inner storm of thought, of fear, of regret, and of striving creates a constant, high-pitched spiritual static in your soul that makes it utterly impossible to discern the gentle, loving frequency of my voice. And beneath all of this other noise, there is another voice. It is quieter, more subtle, but it is the most venomous of all. It is the deceptive whisper of your adversary, the accuser. He is the master of noise. His greatest strategy is to use the noise of the world and the noise of your own heart to create an atmosphere where his own lies can thrive. And his noise is always the noise of condemnation. He takes your real failures and he twists them into a lie about your identity. He takes your fear and he uses it as proof that you are faithless. He takes my silence, which is a silence of loving preparation, and he twists it into a lie about my rejection. His voice is the most dangerous of all, for it is specifically and cunningly designed to make you believe that you are unworthy to hear from me, and that I am unwilling to speak to you. And what is the result of all of this noise, the shouting of the world, the storm of your own mind, and the whispering of the accuser? The result has been a profound and painful spiritual deafness. It is not that you have been unwilling to hear me. It is that you have been unable to. Your spiritual ears have been so overstimulated, so battered and bruised by this constant, relentless cacophony that they have lost their sensitivity to the finer, quieter, and more beautiful frequencies of heaven. You have been waiting for me to shout over the top of all this noise. You have been hoping that I would part the heavens with a great thunderclap to finally get your attention. But, my beloved child, you must understand the nature of my voice, my primary language, the language of my heart, the language of my most intimate communication with my children, is not the shout, it is the whisper. And why is this? Because shouting is for communicating with those who are far away, but whispering is reserved for those who are very, very close. My desire is not for a long-distance relationship with you. My desire is for a face-to-face, heart-to-heart, cheek-to-cheek intimacy, and so I speak in the intimate, gentle language of a whisper. The problem has never been the volume of my voice. It has only ever been the volume of your world. So be at peace, my child. Let this truth begin to calm your anxious heart. I have not stopped speaking to you. You are not spiritually deaf in a permanent way. You are simply standing in a very, very noisy room. And the first step in learning to hear my voice again is not to try and make me speak louder. It is to learn, with my help, how to begin to turn down the volume of all the other noises. And now that you understand the deafening noise that has surrounded you, we must speak of the beautiful nature of my voice itself, so that when the quiet finally comes, you will be able to recognize it. We must now speak of why my voice is a whisper, not a shout. You now see with a new and painful clarity the hurricane of noise that has been raging in your life. You understand that the shouting of the world, the storm of your own anxious mind, and the deceptive whisperings of your adversary have combined to create a deafening cacophony in your soul. And in your desperation to feel connected to me, you have been crying out for me to shout over the top of this storm. You have been waiting for a voice as loud as your chaos, a great thunderclap from heaven that will silence all the other noises and make my presence undeniably known. But my beloved child, you have been listening for the wrong sound. We must now speak of the true and beautiful nature of my voice. For to recognize it, you must first understand that my voice is a whisper, not a shout. Your world worships power, and it has taught you to equate power with loudness. Your entire culture is a testament to this belief. You are surrounded by loud music, loud entertainment, loud opinions, and loud personalities who dominate the conversation. Even in your religious experience, you have often been taught to look for me in the loud and the spectacular things, the dramatic, public miracle, the shouting and charismatic preacher, the loud and emotionally driven worship service. You have been trained by your entire life's experience to believe that a powerful God must have a loud and thunderous voice. And so, when you have listened for me and have heard only a gentle stillness, you have concluded that I am not there, or that I am not powerful. But I must now take you back to the story of one of my most powerful and beloved prophets, Elijah. This was a man who knew my power intimately. He was a man who had, by his own prayer, called down fire from heaven in a great and spectacular public display. But immediately following his greatest victory, he was overcome with fear and exhaustion. He fled into the wilderness. He sat under a juniper tree, and he despaired of his own life, feeling utterly alone and abandoned by me, just as you have felt. And he, too, was waiting for me to come to him in a great and powerful display that would match the turmoil in his own soul. And as he waited for me on the mountain, a great and powerful wind came, a wind so strong that it shattered the rocks on the mountain. But my scripture says that I was not in the wind. And after the wind, there was a great and terrifying earthquake that shook the very foundations of the earth. But I was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there came a raging fire, but I was not in the fire. And after the fire, after all the loud, dramatic, and terrifying displays of power had passed, there came a gentle whisper, a still small voice. And when my servant Elijah heard that sound, the sound of a quiet and gentle presence, he knew instantly that it was me. He wrapped his face in his mantle, for he was in a holy place. And he came out to meet with his God. My child, you have been looking for me in the great wind of your chaotic circumstances. You have been looking for me in the terrifying earthquake of your personal crises. You have been looking for me in the purifying fire of your afflictions. And I have been present in all those things, as we have discussed. But my voice, my most intimate, personal, and directional communication with you, is not in the earthquake or the fire. My eternal address, my chosen meeting place, the place where I choose to speak the deepest secrets of my heart to my beloved children, is in the still, small voice. And why do I choose to speak in a whisper? You have thought it is a sign of my distance or my weakness. But I tell you, it is a sign of my intimacy and my great power. First, a whisper is a sign of profound intimacy. Shouting is a language of distance. A person shouts to be heard across a great field or a noisy room. It is an impersonal and public form of communication. But whispering is a language of closeness. It is the language of lovers, their heads close together, sharing a secret no one else can hear. It is the language of a loving parent, leaning down to whisper a word of comfort and reassurance directly into the ear of their small, frightened child in the dark. I do not shout at you from a distant, impersonal heaven. I choose to whisper to you because I am, by my Spirit who lives in you, closer to you than your own breath, nearer to you than your own thoughts. My whisper is the constant, beautiful, and undeniable proof of my nearness. To hear a shout, you can remain where you are, but to hear a whisper, you must lean in close. You must incline your ear. My quiet voice is my constant, loving invitation for you to draw near to me, to forsake the noise of the crowd, and to enter into the secret, intimate place of my presence. Second, a whisper requires stillness to be heard. I choose to speak in a whisper because it is my loving and divine tool to discipline you into a life of inner stillness and peace. A shout can be heard in the middle of a chaotic marketplace, but a whisper can only be truly discerned in a quiet and attentive room. If I were to shout over the top of all the other noises in your life, you would have no incentive to ever quiet your own soul. You would continue to live in the frantic, noisy, and anxious state that has been destroying your peace. But because I choose to whisper, I am lovingly forcing you to become still. I am teaching you that if you want to hear my voice, you must learn to quiet the inner storm of your own anxious thoughts. You must learn to silence the other competing voices. You must learn to create a sacred, quiet space within you where our intimate communion can take place. My quiet voice is my powerful invitation to your own inner peace. Third, a whisper conveys absolute trust and authority in your world. It is often those who are most insecure who shout the loudest. They use the volume of their voice to try and intimidate, to control, and to prove their own authority. But true, settled, and absolute authority does not need to raise its voice. A great king does not need to shout to be obeyed. His quietest. Whispered word is a command that sends armies into motion. My voice is a whisper because my authority in the universe is absolute and uncontested. I do not need to compete with the other noises of your life. My quietest word, spoken from my throne and carried by my spirit, can shatter mountains. It can silence demons. It can change the course of your destiny. You must learn that the power of my voice is not contained in its volume, but in its divine and eternal source. And finally, I whisper to you to protect the sacredness of the message. The deep, precious, and often fragile truths that I want to speak to the depth of your heart are not meant to be shouted as public slogans in the marketplace of the world. They are sacred secrets. They are the mysteries of my love, intended for you alone in your season of need. I whisper them to you to honor their immense value and to protect them from the cynical and mocking ears of those who would not understand. The whisper creates a sacred, private space between you and me, a holy of holies in your own heart, where I can reveal my secrets to you, not as my servant, but as my cherished and trusted friend. You have been tuning the ear of your spirit for years to the loud, harsh, and chaotic frequencies of the world. And in the process, you have become temporarily deaf to the quiet, gentle, and beautiful frequency of heaven. I am now calling you to a gentle process of retuning your spiritual ear. It is the discipline of intentionally beginning to ignore the loud, demanding noises and learning with a new and patient attentiveness to listen for the whisper. It is an entirely new way of paying attention. My voice has not been silent. It has been whispering to you all along, every day of your life. It was the gentle nudge to call a friend that you ignored. It was the quiet thought of peace in the middle of your anxiety that you dismissed as your own wishful thinking. It was the sudden, sweet impression of my love for you that you quickly explained away. But now you know what to listen for, so be still. My child, quiet your soul. Turn down the volume of the world and lean in close, for I have so many beautiful, life-giving, and wonderful things that I want to whisper to your heart. You now understand the beautiful and intimate nature of my voice. You know that I'm not a God who shouts over the noise of your life, but a God who whispers in the quiet, a God who invites you into the profound intimacy of a close and personal communion. And now that you know what you are listening for, we must now begin the practical and liberating work of learning how to cultivate the quiet in which my voice can be clearly heard. The first and most obvious step in this journey is to begin to intentionally turn down the volume of the great, deafening, and relentless shout of the world around you. We must now speak of the holy, necessary, and life-giving discipline of silencing the voice of the world. I know that as you hear this, it may feel like a daunting and perhaps even an impossible task, for you live your life completely immersed in the culture of this world. Its voice is not just an occasional visitor. It is the very atmosphere you breathe. It is in the music you hear in the grocery store, the shows you watch to relax in the evening, the news you consume to stay informed, the conversations you have with your colleagues at work. It is everywhere. And to try and silence this pervasive, all-encompassing noise can feel like trying to silence the wind itself. You may feel that to hear my voice, You must completely withdraw from the world. And you know that is not possible. But my child, I am not calling you to a life of complete physical isolation in a monastery on a remote mountaintop. I have placed you in the world for a divine purpose. But I'm now calling you to learn how to live in the world without being of the world. I'm calling you to become a wise and discerning listener, one who can live in the very center of the world's noisy marketplace, but with your spiritual ears finely tuned to a different and higher frequency. It is a sacred art of turning down the volume of human opinion so that you can finally, clearly, hear the one opinion, the one voice that truly matters mine. To do this, we must first identify the primary voices of the world that have been creating so much static in your soul. And I must give you the practical wisdom to turn down their volume. The first and most powerful voice is the voice of your news and your media. The primary, underlying message of almost all of your world's media is the message of fear. It is a voice that shouts of crisis, of war, of plague, of economic collapse, of political division, of impending doom. It is a business model that has discovered that it can capture and hold your attention most effectively by keeping your soul in a constant state of low-grade agitation and anxiety. An anxious soul is a vigilant soul, and a vigilant soul is a faithful consumer of more news. But this voice of fear is the direct antithesis of my voice, for my voice is always, ultimately, a voice that leads to peace. So what is your new discipline? I'm not asking you to become an uninformed or ignorant person, but I'm calling you to a holy and necessary fast from the voice of fear. You must, as a conscious act of your will, limit your intake of the world's bad news. Perhaps this means you no longer start your day by flooding your mind with the world's anxieties. Perhaps it means you choose to read from my word before you read the headlines. And when you do hear a report of fear from the world, you must not allow your mind to meditate on it. You must consciously counter it by speaking my promises of protection, of provision, and of peace over your life, your family, and your future. You must choose, day by day, to listen to my good report over the world's bad report. The second great voice of the world is the voice of your social media culture. And the primary message of this voice is a message of comparison and performance. It is a vast, endless, and carefully curated gallery of other people's greatest successes, their most beautiful moments, their most impressive accomplishments. And it is a constant, subtle, and powerful temptation for you to measure the reality of your own messy, behind-the-scenes life against the highlight reels of their public performance. This voice inevitably breeds in your soul a spirit of envy, of insecurity, of discontentment, and of striving. It is a voice that is directly opposed to my voice, which speaks to you of your own unique, unrepeatable journey and of my unconditional, grace-based love for you. What is your new discipline? You must learn to engage with this world wisely, intentionally, and with firm boundaries. You may need to fast from it for seasons to cleanse your soul of its toxic effects. And when you do engage with it, you must learn to do so with discerning eyes. You must learn to look at the beautiful images and to remind yourself, this is a performance. This is not the full reality of this person's life. I am seeing their highlight reel, not their daily struggle. And when you feel the poison of comparison or envy beginning to enter your heart, you must immediately turn the eyes of your heart back to me. You must thank me for the unique and specific journey that I have you on. And you must ask me to bless the person you were just envying. This act of blessing will break the power of comparison in your life. The third voice is the pervasive, buzzing voice of human opinion. You are surrounded by the voices of good, intelligent, and well-meaning people, your friends, your family, your colleagues, the experts you see on television. They all have an opinion about how you should live your life, what you should believe, how you should raise your children, how you should spend your money, what you should do about your future. And these voices are often contradictory, creating a state of great confusion and anxiety in your soul. These are the voices of human wisdom, which is so often foolishness to me. And this chorus of human opinion is directly opposed to the one, clear, and perfect voice of my divine wisdom. Your new discipline is this: you must learn to honor people, but to ultimately value only my opinion. Before you make any significant decision, you must learn the practice of first quieting all the other human voices in your head, and then coming into the secret place with me to seek my counsel. And you must be willing, if I ask it of you, to disobey the good and logical advice of men in order to obey the perfect and sometimes paradoxical word of your God. Your ultimate allegiance must be to my voice, and to my voice alone. And finally, there's the voice of worldly ambition. The world shouts at you from the time you are a small child to achieve, to acquire, to accumulate, to build a name for yourself, to climb the ladder of success. Its voice is one of relentless, exhausting ambition and striving. And this voice is the polar opposite of the voice of my kingdom, which calls you to a life of surrender, of service, of humility, and of finding your life by losing it for my sake. Your new discipline is to intentionally and regularly examine the ambitions of your own heart in my presence. You must learn to ask yourself with a ruthless honesty, is this ambition truly born of my spirit and for my glory? Or is it born of the world's values and for my own glory? And you must be willing to lay down your own ambitions at my feet, to let them die if necessary, so that my true, beautiful, and far more satisfying purpose for your life can be born. To do all of this, my child, you must learn to intentionally create small pockets of sacred silence in your noisy life. You must be willing to turn off the radio in your car and to simply drive in silence. You must be willing to take a walk in nature without your headphones, listening only to the sounds of my creation. You must create intentional, protected space in your life where the deafening noise of the world is not allowed to enter. It is in these small, cultivated gardens of quiet that your spiritual ears will begin to heal, and that your sensitivity to my voice will begin to grow strong. As you begin to faithfully and patiently practice this holy discipline of turning down the volume of the world, a beautiful and quiet miracle will happen. The constant, anxious static in your soul will begin to subside. The airwaves of your spirit will become clearer. And in the new and beautiful quiet that you have so courageously cultivated, you will begin to hear another sound, a sound that has been there all along, patiently waiting for you to listen. you will begin to hear my whisper. You have begun the sacred and necessary work of silencing the external voices of the world. You are learning to create small pockets of quiet in your noisy life, to fast from the world's fear, and to turn down the volume of human opinion. But even as you do this, you have discovered a painful and frustrating truth. Even when you are in a perfectly silent room, with no distractions, the noise does not stop. For you have discovered that the loudest and most relentless noise of all is the storm that rages within your own mind. We must now turn our attention inward, for we must address the greatest source of the spiritual static that has kept you from hearing me. We must speak of quieting the storm within. I know this inner storm intimately, for I have been a compassionate and present witness to it every moment of your life. It is a hurricane of anxious thoughts. It is a tornado-like whirlwind of past regrets and future fears. It is the deafening roar of your own inner critic, a voice of self-condemnation that never seems to rest. I know that this inner noise is far more exhausting than any external chaos, for it is the one storm you can never walk away from. You feel trapped inside your own mind, a prisoner to your own racing thoughts, and you have despaired of ever finding a moment of true internal silence. At the very center of this storm, there has been a frantic and terrified narrator who has seized control of the microphone in the recording studio of your mind. And this narrator's job, it seems, is to provide a constant, running commentary on your entire life. A commentary that is always saturated with fear, with judgment, and with condemnation. This is the anxious narrator of your flesh, your old, unredeemed nature, and its voice is loud, is persistent, and because it knows all your weaknesses, it is incredibly convincing. But I have come to you today as the Prince of Peace. I have come as the one with the authority and the love to gently but firmly take the microphone from the hand of that terrified narrator. I have come to bring a new voice, a new sound, into the studio of your soul. My voice, my great desire for you in this season is to calm the anxious narrator in your mind and to replace its frantic noise with my profound and supernatural peace. To do this, we must first deconstruct the different elements of your inner storm and apply my divine solution to each one. The strongest and most persistent wind in your inner storm is the wind of anxious thoughts. It is the constant, nagging stream of what-if questions that blows through your mind day and night, keeping your soul perpetually off balance and afraid. What if I fail at this new task? What if they reject me when they see who I really am? What if I get sick? What if I run out of money? This wind of anxiety is a powerful and destructive force. It is the opposite of faith. It is, in its essence, the practice of meditating on the enemy's promises instead of mine, but my peace. The peace I give to you is not a fragile feeling or a weak suggestion. It is a spiritual substance of immense weight and power. It is a divine and heavy anchor for your mind. I am now teaching you how to use this anchor when the winds of worry begin to blow in your mind. You must learn the discipline of immediately dropping the anchor of my peace into the depths of your spirit. You do this through a simple but powerful act of faith. You must learn to turn your anxious thoughts into prayers. Every single time a what-if thought enters your mind, you must learn to immediately capture it and to turn it over to me, saying, either out loud or in your heart, Father, I give you this fear about my finances. I refuse to carry it, and in its place, I now receive your perfect peace that guards my heart and my mind. My peace, when actively received by faith, will hold your mind steady. Even when the winds of circumstance are howling around you, the storm within you is also fed by a cold and constant rain of regret. Your mind has become saturated with the acidic memories of your past failures. These memories fall upon you like a cold, dispiriting rain, making you feel damp, heavy, and chilled to the bone with shame. This constant rain of regret has made the soil of your soul sour and waterlogged, preventing any new and hopeful seeds from taking root. But my grace, my unmerited favor toward you, is like a great and impenetrable shelter over your soul. And the blood of my Lamb is a powerful cleansing agent that washes away the mud and the mire of your past. When a memory of a past failure begins to rain down upon you, you must, by a conscious act of your will, refuse to stand out in it and get soaked in its shame. You must run for shelter under the strong roof of my grace. You must remind yourself of the truth. I am forgiven for that. That sin has been washed away by the blood. It is in the past, and it no longer has the power to define me. My grace does not just forgive your past. My grace is powerful enough to heal you from the ongoing torment of your past. And in your storm, there has been the terrifying lightning of self-criticism. There's a harsh, cruel, and unforgiving judge who resides in the courtroom of your mind. And he is constantly striking you with bolts of lightning sharp, painful, and brilliant flashes of self-criticism and self-condemnation. He is an expert at pointing out your every flaw, your every inadequacy, your every imperfection. This inner voice is often the cruelest and most merciless voice of all, but I am the higher judge. I am the Supreme Court of the universe. And my final and eternal verdict over you is not one of condemnation, but one of extravagant love, of complete acceptance, and of fatherly delight. You must now learn to use my verdict to silence your own inner judge. When the lightning of a self-critical thought strikes your mind, you must learn to immediately hold up the divine shield of my acceptance and say with authority, no, that is not the truth. The truth is that my Father delights in me. The truth is that I am his beloved child. My worth is not based on my performance. It is based on his unchanging love for me. You must, my child, learn to allow my love for you to become louder and more powerful than your own lack of love for yourself. And finally, there is the constant, low rumble of the thunder of striving. This is the deep and constant tension you feel in your soul, the noise that comes from your own desperate need to control your life, to manage your own outcomes, to fix your own problems, to be your own God. This striving creates a constant and exhausting thunder in your spirit. And the only way to silence this thunder is through the quiet, beautiful, and profoundly powerful act of surrender. It is the discipline of consciously and intentionally letting go. It is the act of entrusting the outcome of your life to me. It is a choice to cease from your own anxious works and to enter into a restful trust in my finished work. Surrender is the profound and holy silence that absorbs the mighty thunder of your striving. And as you learn to trust me more, moment by moment, the need to strive will lessen, and the thunder in your soul will begin to fade into a peaceful quiet. My child, I will not do this work in you without your active partnership. You must become the gentle but firm gatekeeper of your own mind. You have the authority, in my name, to choose which thoughts you will allow to stay and which thoughts you will command to leave. You must practice these disciplines of peace, of grace, of acceptance, and of surrender. This is the holy work, the work we will now do together, of quieting the storm within. And as you partner with me in this sacred work, a beautiful and quiet miracle will happen. The hurricane in your mind will begin to subside. The violent winds will calm to a gentle breeze. The cold rain will cease. The lightning will stop flashing, and the thunder will fade into a distant rumble. And in the place of all that noise and chaos, there will be a new and beautiful quiet, a deep and settled stillness, a profound and supernatural peace. This is the sanctuary of stillness that I'm now creating within you. And it is in this sacred, quiet place that you will finally, clearly, and beautifully begin to hear the gentle whisper of my voice. You have now begun the sacred and life-altering work of quieting the world around you and calming the storm within you. You are learning the holy disciplines that turn down the deafening volume of fear, of human opinion, and of your own anxious, striving heart. And as the great, roaring cacophony that has defined your life for so long begins to recede, you find yourself entering a new and unfamiliar territory. It is the territory of inner quiet. And now we must speak of this place, for it is not what you have always feared it to be. We must now consecrate and explore the glorious sanctuary of stillness. I know, my beloved child, that you have, for most of your life, been terrified of the quiet. In the past, when the external noises of your day have finally ceased, that is the very moment that the internal noises of your pain have become most deafening. The quiet has been the space where your deepest loneliness has echoed the loudest. It has been the silent room where the ghosts of your past regrets have come out to haunt you. It has been the stillness in which your greatest fears have screamed their terrifying threats into the ear of your heart. And so, you have learned to run from the quiet. You have filled every moment of your life with noise, with distraction, with activity. You have used the television, the radio, music, podcasts, and constant, endless work as a kind of spiritual anesthetic, a way to numb yourself from the perceived terror of a quiet and unoccupied mind. To you, the quiet has not been a place of peace. It has been an empty, desolate, and frightening void, a place to be avoided at all costs. But my child, you have feared the quiet because you have always, up until now, had to enter it alone. You have entered it in the company of your own anxieties and your own accuser. But I am now calling you to a new and different kind of quiet. It is a quiet that you now learn to enter into with me, your loving Father and your constant companion. And when you learn to enter the quiet with me, its very nature is transformed. It is no longer a void. It becomes a sanctuary. It is no longer an empty room. It becomes our sacred and joyful meeting place. You have feared the emptiness, but I have come to show you that this quiet is, in fact, a place of profound and unimaginable fullness. Let me describe to you the nature of this sanctuary of stillness I am now inviting you into. Imagine that in the very center of your being, in the core of your spirit, there's a secret, walled garden. The high walls of my grace have been built around it, and the deafening noise of the world's marketplace cannot penetrate these walls. For years, this inner garden has been untended. It has been overgrown with the thorny weeds of your anxiety. It has been littered with the sharp, painful stones of your past traumas. But as we have been working together to quiet the noise of your life, we have, in effect, been patiently weeding this garden. We have been gently clearing away the stones. And now, as you learn to enter this garden and to be still, you can begin to perceive its true beauty in the center of the garden. You can begin to hear the gentle, musical sound of the fountain of my Holy Spirit, which has been bubbling up within you all along. Though you were unable to hear it over the noise, you can begin to smell the sweet and heavenly fragrance of the new flowers of hope and of peace that I am now planting there. You will find that this inner garden, this place of quiet, is not a barren desert, but a place of immense life, of vibrant color, and of deep, soul-restoring peace. It is the Eden of your own heart, restored. Think also of this inner quiet as the Holy of Holies of your own soul. In my ancient temple, there were several courts. There was the outer court, which was a noisy, busy, and public place, filled with the sounds of commerce and the activity of the sacrifices. Then there was the inner court, a quieter and more reverent place. And then, beyond the great, heavy veil, there was the most sacred space of all the Holy of Holies. It was a place of profound and absolute silence, and it was the place that was filled with the tangible, manifest glory of my presence. My child, your soul is like this temple, your outer life, your work, your interactions with the world is the noisy outer court. But I am now, by the power of the finished work of my Son, tearing the veil that has separated you from the deepest parts of your own being. I am inviting you to move past the noise of your outer life and to enter into the Holy of Holies of your own spirit. This inner quiet is that sacred space. It is the place where you can finally commune with me, not just mind to mind, but spirit to spirit, in a deep, wordless, and glorious intimacy that is beyond all human language. And this sanctuary of stillness is also your shelter from the storm. We have spoken of how you have learned to find my presence as by the hurricane. This inner quiet I am leading you into is this very place. While the inevitable storms of your outward circumstances may still rage around you, while the winds of the world may continue to howl, you can now learn to consciously retreat into this inner sanctuary of stillness, this eye of the storm that exists within you. And there you will find a place of perfect peace, of unshakable stability, and of absolute safety. This quiet is your fortress. It is your panic room. It is your divine storm cellar in the midst of the tornadoes of life. And finally, you must understand that this quiet is not an end in itself. It is the necessary environment for true hearing. It is like a great and magnificent concert hall, one that has been built by a master acoustician. Once the noisy, chattering audience of your own anxious thoughts has been politely asked to become silent, once the distracting noise from the street outside has been shut out by the thick, soundproof doors, then, and only then, can the beautiful, the subtle, the complex, and the life-giving whisper of my voice be heard with a perfect and an astonishing clarity. The quiet is the sacred space where my whisper becomes a symphony to your soul. Therefore, I am calling you now to a complete revolution in your attitude toward quiet and stillness. I am calling you to fall in love with the quiet. Do not fear it any longer. Do not run from it as you once did. I want you to begin to seek it out, to cultivate it, to protect it as your most precious and sacred possession. You will find that the few minutes you spend each day intentionally cultivating this inner sanctuary of stillness will become the most productive, the most healing, the most creative, and the most important part of your entire day. It will be the source from which all your true strength, all your true peace, and all your true wisdom will flow. And this is my unbreakable promise to you, my beloved child. Every single time you choose, by an act of your will, to turn away from the noise and to enter into the quiet of your own heart, you will find me there, waiting for you with open arms. The quiet is not an emptiness that you must learn to endure. It is the very fullness of my loving presence, waiting to be enjoyed. It is our secret garden. It is our holy meeting place. And it is here, in this beautiful, sacred, and profound stillness, that you will finally begin to hear my voice with an intimacy and a clarity that you have never, ever known before. You have taken the first courageous steps on a new and holy path. You have begun the sacred work of quieting the storm within and silencing the deafening noise of the world around you. You have discovered that the quiet you once so deeply feared is not an empty, terrifying void, but a rich, beautiful, and holy sanctuary, our secret garden, our meeting place. And now that you have learned how to prepare the sacred space, now that you have come to this beautiful and quiet place, you are finally ready to receive the great and central promise for which all of this has been a loving preparation. The time has come for you to not just seek my voice, but to finally and clearly hear it. For too long, you have lived in a state of profound and painful confusion and spiritual deafness. You have longed for clear guidance, for a word of specific direction, for a tangible sense of my personal communication with you. And in the long silence, you have feared that you are destined to wander through your life without a guide, without a compass. Therefore, I declare to you today, as you now sit in the quiet sanctuary of your own heart, that the long and sorrowful season of my perceived silence is now over. And as you continue to learn and to practice the holy discipline of cultivating this inner quiet, you will, with an ever-increasing clarity, with a joyful certainty, and with a peaceful confidence, begin to hear my voice. You will hear my voice. And what is this voice that you will begin to hear? It is not one voice, but a beautiful chord of my communication with many different and harmonious notes. First, and perhaps what you have longed for most, you will begin to hear my voice of gentle guidance and clear direction. You have felt so lost for so long, so unsure of which way to turn. You have been paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision, a decision that would take you even further from my will. But now, in the quiet, as you bring your decisions and your questions before me, you will begin to hear my voice, a gentle guidance, It will likely not be a loud, booming, audible command from the heavens. My guidance is most often more subtle, more intimate, and more beautiful than that. It will come as a quiet but unshakable knowing deep in your spirit. It will come as a subtle but persistent inner nudge toward one path and a quiet but definite check in your spirit about another. It will come as my word, the scriptures, suddenly coming alive with a personal and specific application to your situation. It will come as a supernatural peace that settles upon one choice and a corresponding lack of peace that surrounds another. I will guide you, as the psalmist wrote, with my eye upon you. I will lead you beside the still waters. Your days of confused and anxious wandering are now over. I will lead you and I will guide you. You will also begin to hear my voice of profound comfort and extravagant encouragement. The voice of the world has been one of constant fear, and the voice of your own inner critic has been one of relentless condemnation. But now, in the sanctuary of stillness, you will begin to hear a new and more powerful voice, a voice that will be the divine counter-narrative to every lie of the enemy and every fear of your own heart. When you are hurting, I will whisper words of healing to your soul. When you are feeling weak and inadequate, I will whisper words of my strength over you. When you feel like a failure, when the accuser reminds you of your past sins, I will whisper your true and eternal name. To you, you are beloved. You are redeemed. You are righteous. You are my child. My voice will become your constant source of comfort, of encouragement, of validation, and of hope. You will also begin to hear my voice of divine wisdom and revelation. You have struggled to understand my ways, and which are so often mysterious. You have been confused by passages in my word. You have wrestled with the great and difficult questions of life. But now, as you learn to quiet your own striving, analytical mind, and to simply listen, you will hear my voice of wisdom in the quiet. As you read my scriptures, the pages will no longer be silent to you. My spirit will illuminate them, and you will hear my voice speaking to you from the ancient texts with a fresh personal and startling relevance. I will begin to give you divine wisdom for the complex situations you face in your life and in your relationships. I will begin to share with you the secrets of my kingdom. I will reveal to you my heart. As a man shares his heart with his most trusted and cherished friend, the season of your deep confusion will begin to give way to a new season of profound and peaceful clarity as you learn to listen for the wisdom that comes from above. And most beautifully of all, you will begin to hear my voice of delight and of love. This is the sound your heart has been most starving to hear. For too long, you have been afraid of my voice, believing that if I were to truly speak to you, it would be a voice of judgment, of correction, of disappointment, of condemnation. But the voice you will now begin to hear most clearly in the quiet will be, above all else, the voice of a loving and doting Father. You will hear the smile in my tone. You will hear the affection in my words. You will, at times, even feel the sound of me rejoicing over you with singing. The primary sound you will now hear in the sanctuary of your stillness will be the sound of my unconditional, my passionate, my relentless, and my joyful love for you. But how will you know for certain that it is my voice you are hearing, and not just the voice of your own desires, or the deceptive voice of the enemy? I will give you 3 unfailing tests. The true, whispered voice of my spirit will always align with the truth of my written word. I will never contradict myself. My whispered word to your heart will always be in perfect harmony with my eternal written word. Second, my voice will always produce the fruit of my spirit. My voice will never lead you into a state of anxiety, of striving, of pride, of confusion, or of condemnation. My voice always produces love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If the word you are hearing is producing fear or frantic striving, it is not from me. And third, my voice will always glorify my Son, Jesus. The primary work of my Holy Spirit in the earth is to testify about my Son. Therefore, any true word from me will ultimately point you to Him, to His beauty, to His sufficiency, to His grace, and to His glory. So I'm calling you now to a new life of holy listening. I am calling you to begin to enter the quiet with a new and joyful expectation. Do not expect to be met with silence any longer. Expect to hear from me, for I am not a distant or a mute God who has abandoned you to figure things out on your own. I am a loving, relational, and communicative God who delights in speaking with His children. The promise of a new and clear direction, of a deep and abiding comfort, and of an intimate and loving communion is now yours. The days of you feeling like a spiritual orphan, lost and without guidance, are over. The days of you being tossed to and fro by the confusing winds of the world and your own inner turmoil are ending. I am restoring our intimate, moment by moment communication. The sanctuary has been prepared. The noise has been silenced. The conductor is ready to speak. Listen, my beloved child, listen, for I have so much I want to say to you. The great and glorious promise has been given, and the declaration has been made. As you learn to cultivate the sacred space of inner stillness, you will, with an ever-increasing clarity and a joyful certainty, hear my voice. But you must understand, my beloved, that this is not a passive reality that will now simply happen to you without your joyful cooperation. It is a relationship. It is a divine dance. It is a holy skill that you must now learn and practice with a gentle and patient diligence. We must now speak of the final and most beautiful part of your journey, the practical and holy disciplines of listening. For most of your life, even your life as my child, your prayer has been primarily about you talking to me. You have faithfully brought me your list of requests, your heartfelt confessions, your beautiful praises, and your honest complaints. This is a good and a beautiful thing, and I have leaned in from heaven and have delighted in hearing every single word from your heart. But a monologue, however sincere, is only one half of a conversation. You have, over the years, become an expert at speaking to me, but you are, perhaps, still a novice at the art of listening for me. And I am now inviting you, and with great love, into the other, quieter, and more intimate half of our communion. The world, and even much of the religious world, has taught you that the power of prayer is in the speaking, in the confessing, in the declaring, but I want to teach you a deeper and more profound truth. The most powerful, the most transformative, and the most intimate moments of prayer are often the ones that are completely silent. The greatest power is found not in speaking, but in the holy discipline of becoming still, of quieting your own mind and your own agenda, and of simply, attentively, and expectantly listening. It is the sacred art of practicing my presence. This is how to practice the presence of God. The first and most foundational discipline is the one we have spoken of. You must learn to intentionally create a space for stillness. You cannot hear a whisper in a hurricane, and you cannot hear my whisper in the midst of a frantic and noisy life. I am calling you to the beautiful discipline of intentional stillness. This does not mean you must spend hours a day in silent meditation, though you may grow to love that. It means that you must begin by carving out small, manageable, and protected pockets of quiet in your ordinary day. It may be the first 10 minutes of your morning, before you pick up your phone, before you turn on the news. You can simply sit in a chair with a cup of coffee, close your eyes, and do nothing but breathe, consciously offering that quiet, empty space to me. It may be 5 minutes in your car during your lunch break, with the radio turned off. It may be a quiet walk in nature, without headphones, where your only goal is to listen to the sounds of my creation. In these small moments, you are not trying to accomplish anything. You are not striving to hear a great and mighty word from me. You are simply creating a quiet, still pool in your soul. You are allowing the muddy waters of your anxious thoughts to settle. And it is on the surface of this still, quiet pool that you will begin to perceive the gentle, subtle whisper of my voice. Once you have begun to practice being still, you can then move into the beautiful discipline of listening prayer. After you have spoken your heart to me, after you have poured out your requests and your confessions, do not immediately get up and rush back into the noise of your day. I want you to learn to wait in the silence for a few minutes after you have spoken. I want you to learn to ask me a question, and then to simply listen for the answer. Ask me, Father, what is on your heart for me today? Or, Lord, is there anything you want to say to me about this situation? And then you must listen with all of your spiritual senses. The answer may not come as a loud, audible voice. In fact, it rarely does. It may come as a quiet thought that seems to gently float into your mind, a thought that you know is wiser and more loving than your own. It may come as a picture or an image that appears in your imagination. It may come as a sudden and overwhelming feeling of my peace or my love. It may come as a single word of scripture that comes to your remembrance. You must learn to pay attention to these gentle, inward impressions. This is the art of listening. To go even deeper in your ability to hear, I will at times call you to the discipline of solitude. This is an extended period of quiet, a time when you intentionally pull away from your normal routines, your relationships, and all your distractions, to be alone with me. It may be for a few hours on a Saturday morning. It may be for a full day. It may, one day, be for even longer. It is in these extended periods of solitude that the deeper and more persistent noises of your soul finally have time to settle down completely. And it is in this profound quiet that your spiritual ears become incredibly sensitive to my voice. It was in the solitude of the desert wilderness that my son received his greatest clarity, his deepest communion with me, and his greatest power. Do not be afraid of being alone with me. It is in the extended quiet of solitude that I often speak my most profound secrets and give my clearest direction. And finally, you must learn to listen for my voice, not just in your times of prayer, but throughout your ordinary day. And my most common language in your daily life is the gentle nudge of my spirit. It is the sudden, quiet, and often illogical impulse to call a specific person, who you later find out was in desperate need of encouragement. It is the unexplainable urge to turn down a different street on your way home, only to avoid a great traffic jam or an accident. It is the quiet check in your spirit, the feeling of subtle resistance that says, do not do that. Do not make that decision. My child, you must learn to honor and to trust these small, quiet, and seemingly insignificant nudges, for they are the whispers of your ever-present guide, your constant companion, leading you and protecting you in the small details of your life. And the more you learn to obey these small nudges, the more I will be able to entrust you with clearer and more significant guidance. As you begin to gently and patiently practice these holy disciplines of listening, the discipline of stillness, of listening prayer, of solitude, and of trusting the nudge, a new and beautiful reality will emerge in your life. You will no longer feel that you are navigating your life alone, guessing at the right path. You will begin to live with a constant, moment by moment sense of my guidance, my comfort, my wisdom, and my loving companionship, hearing. My voice will move from being a rare and dramatic event that you hope for to being the normal, daily, and joyful reality of your life. You will learn to live in a seamless, running conversation with your closest and most trusted friend. And so, my beloved, who is now learning to listen with the ear of your heart, our journey of revelation is now complete. From the painful and confusing reality of a life filled with deafening noise, you have come to understand the beautiful, intimate nature of my whispered voice. You have learned how I have been calling you to quiet the storm within and to silence the voices of the world without. You have discovered the sacred and beautiful sanctuary of stillness that is your meeting place with me. You have received the glorious promise that you will, indeed, hear my voice. And now, you have the simple, practical instructions for how to cultivate the holy discipline of listening for the rest of your days. Imagine us now, walking together through a quiet and beautiful garden at the cool of the day. There's no need for frantic conversation. We are walking in a comfortable and easy companionship. And from time to time, I will lean over and I will whisper a word of love, a word of guidance, a word of encouragement into your ear. And you, with your new and attentive ears, will hear me. And you will smile. This is not a distant dream. This is the life I am inviting you into. This is your new reality. Listen for me. My child, I am always speaking. Our great and beautiful conversation has now truly begun.